Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Tapped In Indy Podcast. Man, look, let's jump right into the heat of it here. It is hot, by the way.
Absolutely.
Yeah, oof. Here's the crazy thing. You went to Florida. We'll get into that in a second. It was probably cooler there than it is here.
Yeah, it was pretty steamy down there, but it's definitely hot up here as well. I mean, here lately, especially with all like the weather and storms and everything, it's kind of got that muggy feeling and everything. So I don't know. It's a toss up.
Listen, I lived in Florida for 10 years, from the ages of 2 to 12. And I tell people all the time, honestly, man, I lived right on the Atlantic coast. That maybe had a lot to do with it. So there was always a breeze off the ocean. Even when it was like as hot as it could possibly be, I would still say, give me that over these hot, humid, like Georgia summers. I'm just clearly a fall guy, or a winter guy. Like, I am not a summer guy in the least. But at least you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, and that is getting out of the state of Georgia.
Absolutely. It was one of the questions that was asked. I told him, hey, keep your eye out. I'll definitely be going to some other states, got some other ones lined up. But yeah, went down to Coastal Wrestling Federation in Milton, Florida. Had a great match against a guy named Justin Flo. Hopefully he can start making his way to like Georgia and things like that. But yeah, it was a great promotion. They've got a great production value down there. And so they're doing everything. They got TNA talents coming in like Moose and Casey Navarro. And so they're really stepping their game up down there. It was my first time back in like 4 or 5 years there. So it was kind of cool to see how they've evolved. So shout out to Coastal Wrestling Federation. If you go to their Facebook, you can find everything that you need there about their promotion there.
Man, that's one of the things we talk about a lot about out-of-state promotions. And one of the things, like, I've done a few promotions that are Mississippi, Colorado, believe it or not. Talked some with Texas and, some guys that have been around. And what is it, like, what's different? And then we'll get to the show part. I was curious because you've experienced it literally so recently. What the difference between working Georgia and working like a Florida?
I would honestly say the crowds. I think we talked about it a couple weeks ago where we talked about performing in front of different crowds. That crowd was very different, where a Georgia crowd is very involved in the show. That Florida crowd there, they were very quiet until you did something that sparked their interest. So you kind of had to work interest. Good night. A long weekend. But yeah, if you had to work hard for them, which was a lot of fun because it wasn't just a simple shut up that gets the crowd rowdy. It was, you had to do something to get them rowdy. So I would just say the way that they are programmed to react to things is a lot different than a Georgia crowd.
Well, man, maybe that's the more we hit the road, maybe there's a special Patreon video over on our channel, patreon.com/tapped-out-pod. We could do a special there, maybe, go in a little depth. But, hey, obviously, guys, we always tell you should sign up because you get the show early. We cover all this stuff on a regular basis, and I get it if you're a YouTube watcher. Like, all the videos, subscribe, hit that little bell, turn the notifications on. But we don't want to go too long on all that, on the house cleaning stuff because we got a full slate here. And we're going to this is going to be your first experience with the Power 5. That's at the end of the show. So make sure you stick around for that one. But, man, this past weekend, I know you were out of state, so I wanted to make sure and catch you up on a lot of stuff.
I heard a lot of buzz of a lot of things going on. From Friday to Sunday, it looked crazy. Everything going on in Georgia. It's pretty exciting.
Two of the big news topics, people messaging me, a friend of the show, Jeremy York, he was at the Bullpen show. Some people were messaging me, from the Viral show. Look, Viral Drew, reportedly they sent in a number of 750 plus. Massive crowd. Bleachers looked full. Ringside looked pretty much sold out. So the whole floor sold out. Take that for what it is, right? I don't know what a gym holds anymore. I always tell people that I have no idea. Sean Legacy, Jackson Drake. By the way, Jackson Drake sporting his new Evolve Heavyweight Championship there at the show. I wanted to ask you two things about this. We've now seen this match multiple times here in Georgia. I've seen it it's obviously here. It was at Action. I've seen it. And I know there were a couple others, and there's off the top of my head. I jokingly have told people that I think there's more to this from the WWE's perspective.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm not getting into the things I've heard about the WWE. I did a whole Patreon video a while back of what I heard about the ID, and booking ID guys. I know some weird, wacky rules they have and certain things and all that kind of stuff. I keep saying I think this match is happening more and more and more because I think they have something planned for this down the road. Like they want that match to reps because I think we're going to see this on TV, and we're going to see this on TV, by the way, I think for a really long time.
Yeah, I mean, that could definitely be the case. I think it's also one of those things where, okay, if you've got two WWE ID talents on your card, why wouldn't you have them work together and be like a spectacle match almost? Also, it alleviates, another talent that's not a WWE ID prospect potentially hurting the guy signed with WWE. So if WWE's trusting both guys in that ring because they're both ID prospects, I mean, I think it's a no-brainer for WWE to want that. And especially like you're saying, if they're doing it for reps, these two guys know what WWE's looking for, and they know what they can change, and they know what they're being critiqued on. So it's also a learning for them to work each other as much as possible, send that footage in the matches, and then they get told, hey, you need to work on this. And then the next time they work, they're working on whatever they were critiqued on. And that just allows WWE to see, okay, these guys are learning. They're, taking our advice, our criticism, whatever you want to call it. I think that's kind of what's going on. But these two also have just an arsenal of moves that they're going to have a different match each time, I believe. So you're not going to see the same moves at Viral than you would them wrestling at Classic City or wherever else they've wrestled. So I think that's also it too, is, they're able to go out there and try new stuff that WWE may be telling them to do, and they're comfortable because both of them are under that learning tree and under the same mindset.
I saw the match at Action, and believe it or not, it's just the irony of it. That was the place that I felt like I saw their TV match.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I was like, wait, it was short. It wasn't super long. And I was like, so at Action, I saw their TV match. And that's not an insult. That's oh no, that's probably what we were, you're told anyway.
Right.
You get the gist. Now, I come back. The reason I started with Viral, we kind of had a conversation about Augusta, and, we went back and forth, and you were like, well, I made the comment, look, for now, today, whatever, we're recording on the 23rd. Augusta is Viral's town.
Mm-hmm.
750, big. The names are bringing in the championship matches, everything that they do. I was like, now that's not saying other people can't jockey for position and gain ground, etc., whatever. I mean, do you think? Am I wrong? Does this kind of solidify them for this week that it's like ESPN reacts to everything. The overreaction Monday is what they call it, and we're recording on a Monday, so I'm like, hey, I get it. I'm overreacting, but like. Today, yes. I would say
so I would say if they're drawing the 750 that's reported, then absolutely there's no other promotion in Augusta drawing that at all. So if they're drawing that 750, by all means Augusta is theirs. Because until Phoenix is drawing the 750 or even selling out the building that they're in, that then maybe it's a conversation because, okay, their venue can only hold so many. Is it time for Phoenix to find a bigger venue to increase their audience there? But if Viral's selling out a gym at 750, I don't know if it was a sellout, so I can't say that. But if they're selling 750 tickets here and drawing that crowd of 750, then yeah, Augusta is Viral country.
Now listen to the Georgia Wrestling Spotlight exclusively on Patreon this week. Look, Phoenix has got a massive. They're back at the ballpark. They're this week, so this Thursday they're running the show at the ballpark again. Next Monday we could be overreacting and saying Phoenix is back, baby. It's their city,
right?
Whatever. So we'll see. Also, the big news is the Bullpen had their 1 year anniversary show there in Villa Rica. Look, I've heard numbers all over the place. I'm going to go with the lowest I saw was 350 plus. I saw somebody like 500. So it's somewhere between that. I get it. It's a wide range. I wasn't in the building, so I don't get it. And here's the blunt truth. I don't get caught up in numbers anyway.
Right. Right. And, I mean, I saw pictures of both viral and bullpen. I mean, whether the numbers are stretched or, fluffed, the crowds were huge for both shows. And I mean, that the bullpen, when the way that it was set up and the picture that I saw, I mean, it was nuts looking. So, I mean, each match, or pictures that I saw, I mean, there was just people everywhere. So, shout out to them, and congratulations on the house for both viral and bullpen.
Yeah, you're going to hear a little more about bullpen, but I wanted to, we like to give credit on the show when some things are done right. And I want to go out of my way to say, look, this is one of those awkward, like, are we pulling the curtain back? Are we what are we doing here? But Bull Buchanan on Shooting the Bull, on his Facebook Live show that he does, acknowledged the fact that, so Zach Buchanan, his son, super kicked him. They lose the match to Brad Lynch and Shane Knowles. More details, obviously, on a lot of this are going to be on the Spotlight, guys. That's why I said check it out. I want to zip to the part of there a lot of controversy, lots of stuff that happened. But on his show, he comes out and says that, look, the referee was clearly, well, I don't know if he was paid off what the story was there, but he stopped and said that Bull couldn't finish the match, so therefore he lost. And in the agreement for this bullpen match, he is going to honor the stipulation that was he's out. He can't. He's not going to run the company anymore. That's not what we're congratulating him for. This is where the curtain pulls back a little bit. I love when somebody takes the time to explain to us the little details that makes things make sense. He pointed out he still owns the company. He will still be at the building. He'll still be running the concessions, working the ticket thing, whatever he can do, because that's income for him. Like, he is going to be there to work. However, he does not have booking power. He can't compete for the company. So don't add, like, hey, you got to get in the ring. Can't do any of those. He can't make any of those decisions, but he'll be there. Like, how simple was that? I think the video was 17 minutes and like 20-something seconds. And he explained everything in detail, and we don't have any questions of the next show of, well, if you lost it, why are you here? Makes no sense.
Yeah, I mean, it's just something as simple as connecting the dots for people, because not a lot of people pay attention to sometimes even things that are thrown in their face. I don't think the stipulation was ever he was fired or he had to get out, loser leaves town, or anything like that. So for him to have the match, lose, I put the air quotes there because, there was some sketchy things going on. And then for him to go on the Facebook Live and just cover his tracks and connect the dots for the ones that may not have seen it, or the ones that were seeing it and had questions. You're going in and covering all your bases. Like you said, it explains why he's going to be at the building, why he's going to share flyers and posters on his social media, because the man still wants to make money. The man's still running the company. He just has no control of his company. And
the exclamation point at the end was he also gets to choose who runs day-to-day operations. And he chose that. I'm going to tell you to go follow him on social media, Bullpen Pro Wrestling, Bull Buchanan, and watch the video to see you for yourself. I'm not going to spoil anything about who it was or whatever. So a lot of those things are coming, and that's their story to tell, per se. But I just wanted to tip my cap to be like, and guys, because by the way, it's wrestling, folks. So let's go ahead and tell you, there's probably more to come. And they kind of set the table so there's not the unexplainable of, well, why would the bad guys even let the good guys back in the door? Why would they even do that? We started it, folks. Kudos to them and tip of the cap to them. Look, we talked a little bit about this. We were talking about the heat. I wanted to ask you specifically something that, look, Saturday I went to a show. The show was great, by the way. One Fall, Duluth. It was a West Coast IPA beer fest. Obviously, it's a good time for everybody, had by all.
Right.
I went, not sure if you knew. I'm not going to give details because I don't know if it's not my story to tell. Terry Lawler's got some health issues. He kind of wanted to have one last match before he went out. They, one fall obliged. Another reason why you got to tip your cap to those guys. They obliged and let him kind of, have his match to go out, on his terms. So we were there. It was so hot. I mean, miserable summer Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
I want to ask you first, like are you hesitant about taking those bookings at times just because you know what it's going to be?
Well, sometimes when you take a booking, you don't know where exactly, especially if it's a festival show. You don't know where the ring's going to be. Sometimes the festival will provide a covered space. Sometimes it's in the middle of a field and it's raining or cold, or in this case, very, very hot. So it's one of those things that you can be hesitant if you hear the word festival, but at the same time, those are some of the best crowds to work in front of because they're not your typical wrestling fans, and they're going to be entertained by the small stuff that you can do. But as far as being hesitant, I don't think so. I just like performing that type of thing. But when it gets closer to the date and you see the temperature start rising, and you're like, oh no, this isn't going to be fun. But at the end of the day, they end up turning out being a great booking, and like you said, fun for everybody involved. But it's definitely one of those that you have to take precaution whenever you're booked for a show and it's going to be outdoors. And do you bring your whatever you use to hydrate, whether that's a Gatorade, whether it's your gallon of water. It's one of those things that you just have to be prepared for.
I mean, kudos to them, by the way. Shout out to Scott and that team. They had bottles of water like up on the stage close to the ring. They were sticking them under the ring. So guys, literally mid-match, if you were just that bad, you could literally hop off, grab one, take one.
Well, and sometimes those are for the ref too, because I mean, sometimes you've only got one referee on that show, and sometimes you have 4 or 5 matches depending on the time length that the festival gives you or the venue gives you. And if you've got one ref out there, I mean, he's killing himself out there, especially depending on how many times he has to get up and down and how involved he is in the match. So yeah, shout out to them for taking care of the staff there, for having that water and things like that. So
shout out to Ref Slim. He Ironmanned it for 7 matches for a stretch of a couple hours.
There you go.
And they were just it was just an absolute chore, I could see, to keep him hydrated. But he does a lot of Ironmans for them, and like I was just like, man, you're nuts. But also, man, look, I got there. Obviously, the ring was set up, but I was there as they were breaking it down. And I'm sitting there thinking like, oh, yeah, you don't even think about the crew had to get in there, like put that ring up, tear the ring down. It just in that miserable heat, I can't even imagine. Like it's bad enough probably doing it in an air-conditioned building.
Well, so and another thing that you don't think about is when you're helping set up a ring in a situation like that, okay, I'm not sure about One Fall, but some promotions have just a flatbed trailer that they haul the ring on. So it's just baking in the sun on the way there. Then you have to put it up, which it's all steel. It's not just rubber and trampoline parts like everybody thinks it is. I mean, these are, heavy materials. So picking up something like a ring post, I mean, your hands are burning if you don't have gloves. I mean, you're burning yourself putting this thing up, and not only to mention you're baking in the sun while you're doing it if it's an outdoor show. So yeah, shout out to the ring crew there. I mean, I've done it several times. It's not fun, especially taking it down whenever you've wrestled. You're beat from the heat, and then you got to take this hot ring down and burn yourself all over again.
And these guys did, by the way. Every one of these guys were in a match, so I wanted to shout them out. Loco Martinez, the Northside Heroes, Teriyaki. I mean, like these guys are guys that are like, it's not like, I mean, I hate to say they don't, like these were guys that didn't have to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Like they could have been like, yeah, no, I don't do that anymore. But Xavier Young, Chris Del Rey, Matt Mercer, Cody McCulley, Shane Knowles. I mean, those guys have been in Georgia Wrestling for a long time, So, kudos to them. And like I said, luckily, Scott's got a covered trailer, so it was inside, obviously, when they took it out. But still, like you said, even by the time you carry it to where it's going.
Covered trailers, though, it's very hot. So it's like it's not directly in the sun, but it's still hot. I mean, Have you ever had a drink sit in your car and then you, let me just take a quick drink of this and
Swig.
burn the crap out of your mouth? Same thing. Okay, yeah, it's covered. Let me grab this, piece of the ring and dang, dude, like that's hot. So, same thing. But yeah, shout out to all of those guys. I mean, you'll hear it a lot. I mean, it's just part of the business. It comes with the territory. But something you also don't think about is usually a ring is set up 2-3 hours before the show actually starts. So especially in an uncovered place, I mean, the ring's just sitting out there in the heat. So by the time it's time to wrestle, I mean, every bump don't feel too good. I mean, it already doesn't, but that canvas is hot. The turnbuckles are hot. The ropes are hot.
Kudos to One Fall. They had a tarp over, like they had a cover over the ring, and like right before bell time, they kind of pulled it off real quick, folded it up, put it in the trailer. Yeah, but even then, I'm like, by end of the match one, now it's been sitting there for 7-8 minutes.
Right? Yeah. But I've had the unfortunate pleasure of wrestling in a vinyl ring, where the mat was vinyl on an outside, and that was one of the worst experiences ever because that vinyl just gets hot.
Turn into Chick Donovan and you're not taking those bumps.
Yeah, we did. I think I bumped once and said, we're not doing this. We're not. Nope.
Speaking of hot, man, I know you've got some history with these guys. I wanted to bring up to you, AWE ran their 11th anniversary show up in Canton, Georgia. That's right. Like outside it, literally, they were not in Atlanta, up in Canton. And I wanted to specifically ask you about, I was actually at this show, so if you have questions for me, fire away. But I wanted to ask you about, so during the show, Gary Lamb essentially said until they have a permanent home, like they've had some venue issues, like he's obviously respects murder and, AW and all they've done in their history, that they can kind of, they kind of have a temporary home there in the Action Building. And my question to you was like, do you think that changes anything with their show if they're not running downtown and it's a different crowd?
I mean, as far as like the product, I think Murder and Josh are the type that they're going to run their product how they want to run it. They can be appreciative of Gary, giving them a venue and allowing them to run there. But AWE is AWE. I don't think, it's one of those like Gary knew what he was getting himself into if he knows the AWE product whenever he, allowed them to use the building. With that being said, them drawing 100 and something last night, correct?
Sunday. Yeah, it was last night.
Yeah. Okay. So them drawing 100 or more is pretty impressive for a promotion that is not Southern Honor. And what I mean by that is in that building, just in the past, whenever promotions have ran that building, sometimes it's hard to draw because, they're not the Southern Honor crowd. And so shout out to them for, doing that. And hopefully, that crowd will continue to grow. It is one of those things that you may have to be mindful of the crowd though, and that audience, because at the end of the day, I know it doesn't like to be mentioned or anything like that. That place is a church. So sometimes you have that, Gary Lamb crowd come in there that's not familiar with wrestling. So depending on if they're looking for a family friendly product, where I know AWE can be a little more edgy at times. So I don't know, how that dynamic is going to work, if it's going to hurt them. But hopefully, we just want big success for AWE. And I mean, they had a hell of a card. So Priscilla Kelly, you had Zachary Winch, you had Carly Bravo, you had Alexander Lev. So, I mean, you had all the stars there. And I mean, that definitely helped with the draw there for them. Yeah,
listen, again, we'll go in depth of it on the Georgia Wrestling Spotlight exclusive on our Patreon page. But here's my thing with it. AWE has always been, for me, they are their best when they're honest with themselves, who they are, and they do what they do.
Mm-hmm.
The two times that I kind of had the run is when they tried to be something else. I was like, that's because you're not comfortable in your own skin. It's about trying to do something that's not you. And when you try to do something that's not you, you're not going to do it well.
Right.
By the way, that's a wrestler That's a promotion. It's the booker, whatever, anything in wrestling. I'm like, if you're trying to do something that's not who you are at your core, it's not going to work. And that's why I think when they are AWE at its, at its peak, they were always, that's what they do best. Now, again, I don't know. We're going to have to see, does that work in Canton, Georgia? That's the question that I really kind of had is, will that work there? It doesn't mean I don't like the product, whatever. I mean, you couldn't run AWE in Monroe.
Right.
It's not going to work. So that was my question, I guess, deep in my heart. I'm like, I just want to see how that works in Canton, Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
Not too far up the road, something happened that kind of, I wanted to ask your take from a wrestler perspective, kind of being involved behind the scenes a little bit in some places. Georgia Premier runs up in Jasper. They had a huge show. They had a tag team tournament. They were crowning new champions. Their last champions were stripped of the titles. And when I looked at that, I know it sounds like a Spotlight commercial, but that's essentially what it is, because I'm telling you, we're going to go into this a little more. There were a lot of young people in that tournament. It really was not any, somebody who's been, they've been around forever. Nope, they didn't do that. And Christian Taylor and Trent Edwards, two young guys in the business, they're your new champions. And I started looking around, and I'm like, Trevor Blackwell's their champion. Another guy that's a pretty young guy. You start seeing KJ Impala, the Parker Lees, the Bryce Cannons. There's a lot of young champions all over Georgia, period. Why?
Yeah.
Why are we seeing that more? Because listen, 5-6 years ago when we first started, all we ever heard is it's the same old guys. It's the same old guys are the champions. Doesn't seem to be the case now. What's your theory on that? Yeah,
I think it's because the younger guys in the business right now are actually understanding the business. I want to say most of these young guys coming in, they're in shape. They're actually technically sound at what they can do. So it's young guys that these promotions can, use. It's young guys that they can say, okay, these guys can either make me money or I can put them on a poster and they actually look like wrestlers. Versus, all right, I know this dude's been our champion 6 times, but who else can we use? But now it's, okay, we have a crap ton of guys in Georgia that are looking for work. They're hungry. They're willing to do whatever it takes to make it, and they look great. To put a guy over here, the guy we use in Coastal, Hakeem Young, he has fully transformed himself. He's getting in the best shape of his career. He's currently the Coastal Chaos champion. He had a rough start, but completely did a 180 and turned everything around, and just has proven himself. And that's what it takes is, I know Christian Taylor is one of those guys who, one of the first guys to show up, last to leave, help set up, help tear down. And all of that, goes to show you that, I've said it before on one of these episodes, is hard work pays off in this business. So for him to pay his dues, and it pay off, and, the hard work paying off for him is just cool to see. But I think that's why you're seeing a lot of young faces, is because these kids are paying their dues. They are working hard and actually showing that they want it, versus just showing up and expecting to be the next champion. That's my question, is because we've had a question a couple of weeks ago when we had the mailbag episode. Somebody asked that specific question, and I said, your answer, I have repeated it now at multiple shows where I'm like, okay, just showing up to the show doesn't get you noticed. Standing back, coming out and being, it can backfire on you just showing up, because then you get the wrong reputation and you make the wrong first impression. And that's a huge problem. I try to, when I talk to promoters, I've personally been involved with scenarios where people are upset with young talent, and I'm like, they're 23 or they're 20. I'm like, listen, do you remember how stupid we were at 22 and 23 years old? And try to they need to learn, but you got to learn quick in this business. Well, and the thing is I'm going to drop a huge spoiler and a huge like eye-opening thing is if anything in wrestling, there is a formula that has worked for years and years and years. And if you stick to that formula, you're going to go places. Um, Busted Open did a master's class where they were talking about the art of putting a match together. It's on wherever you listen to your podcast. And Bully Ray speaks about the formula of a match and how it has worked for years and years and how it guys try to change it and they fall flat on their face because it doesn't work. It's the same with paying your dues. If you help set up, help tear down, help put chairs out, help clean up the locker room after a show, help set up the locker room before a show up before bell time, help, just help. There's a formula to it. And Christian Taylor was one of those guys who follows the formula, whether he knows it or not, and it's paying off for him. So it's really cool to see him get some gold and get recognized for his hard work because his name's been popping up everywhere. So Christian Taylor's definitely going to be one to watch out for.
And by the way, he was at AWE. He was in a match.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and by the way, he helped set the cage up for the main event.
Yeah.
Like it's not that hard. And look, there's a wise man in wrestling who told me this recently. We've had this conversation off of the air. And he knows who he is, so I'm not going to say my name, but he's always like, dude, and be humble.
Yeah.
Like you can be a 5, 10, 15-year vet in this business, whatever you want to call yourself, like you could still learn.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what we're starting to see is these kids that are willing to do the extra stuff, and like I said, and just be humble and learn. Like just shut up and listen. They are trying to help you. Most people now, it's not like it used to be back in the 80s when everybody was trying to cut everybody's throat and take their spot or whatever. I'm like, there are a lot of guys that are willing to help you. You just got to know where to get that help and that advice from and be humble enough to listen. Maybe that's the key part.
Absolutely. And
then if you do that, you might end up somewhere. That's all we're saying. Now let's get into something you have not experienced yet. It is the Power 5. This week, this month, I've decided what we're going to do is we're going to do the promotions edition. I figured this is the best way to put you on the spot. Putting you with like wrestlers and stuff like that, I was like, it's not enough.
I'd have to put myself over.
Exactly. Power 5. It's Carly Bravo, Bryce Cannon, Carly Bravo, Bryce Cannon, Carly Bravo. That's Bryce's Power 5. By the way, off the record here, like on the air, Carly Bravo and Zach Wentz, like you got to check that one out.
I can only imagine they absolutely tore the house down, and I haven't even seen the match.
Yeah. I mean, Carly, we say it, it was like if he counts, he's the best wrestler in Georgia, and and he's clearly out there showing the why. Anyway, back to the Power 5 promotion editions. I put together the list because I thought, like, let me do the 5, and we're going to do something we've never done before since you're on here. Before we give the names, and by the way, we don't put them in an order. We don't do 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We just conversation pieces, and one might lead to the next. Do you agree with my 5? And you could be honest. If you don't.
I would, except for one. And the one, and it's no slouch to them.
When we get when we get to it, tell me what it is.
Right, yeah.
And I'm going to just throw you off because I think I know which one. I'm going Bullpen Pro Wrestling. We'll start there. They had their 1-year anniversary, massive show. They've done massive shows all year long, and they run a ton of shows. Temple, Villa Rica, Buchanan, like 2 locations in Alabama. I mean, just show after show after show. I've just really liked what they've been doing all year long. And that's kind of my first one I'm going to throw out there.
Yeah, and I think that's the one that I slightly disagree with. And the reason I say slightly is I feel like they're on this Power 5 this time just because they did draw a huge house, right. Which you could say for viral, but Bullpen, yeah, they're doing great things and all, but I just don't feel like they match with the other 4 on your list. Like, I feel like there is a huge disconnect between Bullpen and the others on your
It
list.
could be. And by the way, we do this every month, so it is kind of like today. We
Right.
openly
Yeah.
very recency bias.
Exactly. Which, if that's the case, and the reason they're on this Power Five is, I would say, the crowd, and because they actually went out of their way to connect dots for the fans to understand their future shows and how they will be ran. So, but yeah, I mean, other than that, I mean, Bullpen, I mean, the guys that work there, I mean, you hear nothing but great things talked about them. So this is not me putting Bullpen Pro Wrestling down or talking crap about them or anything. It's just with the others on this list, it would be the one that I disagreed that could or cannot be on the list.
Gotcha. We'll get the next one that everybody's going to give me grief because they're always on my list. I'm going back to the top of the notes. One Fall Pro Wrestling. Hey, Nick, you're a homer. Nick, you're a big fan of those guys. Yes, guilty as charged. However, I, without question, always give the same answer because every month it's still the correct answer. If you want the best opportunities, if you really want to be on TV somewhere, I think that's your best opportunity. It's their best chance to making it. I mean, am I wrong? Like, that's literally that's the question. Am I wrong?
No, absolutely not. I mean, they're the ones that you never know if you get that opportunity, who you're going to go up against. Are you going to go up against one of the trainee guys or one of the guys who trained under QT, or are you going to get one of the guys that are currently Ring of Honor AEW superstars? You just never know what the matchups are going to be for them. And I mean, I think they're starting to add storylines into their shows now, which is getting some intrigue. And I mean, they are just killing it with the shows that they're running. And I mean, not to mention, I mean, they just announced Lee Johnson versus Bryce Cannon, which is mind blowing. So, yeah, I mean, One Fall is killing it.
And it's funny, you were rattling off the names, and I wanted to go, or you'll get QT Marshall like as a match on the show. Like,
yeah, very true.
It's it's that's kind of my thing. It's like, oh, who am I working tonight? Oh, you're working Billy Gunn tonight. Oh, wait, what? Like, yeah, that's who you're working tonight. Hey, you're working and and here's what I told somebody. I said, I'm not saying if you work there you're getting signed. That is not what I said.
Yeah, but it's your best shot at learning how to get there and how to work that particular style of wrestling.
How to work TV. Literally, it's how to work TV. There's the advantage one. And we've always had this conversation about wrestling in general. I think you said this a week or two ago. Sometimes it's just luck, being in the right place at the right time, in front of the right person. And now, preparation and being ready to seize that moment, that's all on you. But sometimes they're just guys. I mean, how many guys have we looked at and just been like, why is this guy not signed somewhere?
Right.
And it's just timing is everything, right? There's another wise man that says that on a podcast. Timing is everything in wrestling. It just is. And my argument to them is, I'm not saying you'll get signed if you wrestle there, but the odds are better if you do. That's all I'm telling you. It's that simple. Anyway.
Absolutely.
Another one on the list for very similar reasons, is my opinion, is action wrestling. Action wrestling is such the in with IWTV. They're one of the premier independent wrestling television promotions in the Southeast/country. They partnered recently with Tony Khan to run the Dean show, at Double or Nothing.
Huge, yeah.
Yeah, they're doing other things. There's another one. They're going to run another one. So they're going to be partnered in with another one. So if you want the exposure from IWTV, the connections are all that are involved with that, and all of these potential opportunities, action's another one that you're like, hey, there's another place that increases my chances of just being seen. That's it. It's that simple.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I mean, I've had the pleasure of working with Matt Griffin in Action Wrestling, and the way that he runs it is very professional. So it's not one of you just show up and you're curious as to what you're going to do, and you don't know until 10 minutes before your match that you're even wrestling or anything like that. And like you just said, I mean, the opportunities that come with working for Action and the exposure you can get, whether it be from the better independents across the nation with IWTV or Tony Khan. I mean, obviously he's watching the product. Obviously he keeps an eye on Action Wrestling and what they're doing. If not, he wouldn't, sign his name off to run a show with them. So I think it's huge things that Action Wrestling's doing. And it's another promotion that runs so many shows and in different markets, different areas. They're always on the move. Their home base is in Tyrone, but they are killing it wherever they go.
And look, a couple guys who I feel like have done it the right way. I feel like that was kind of it's not their home, but when Adam Priest, Cruel, like those guys that have turned it into like, hey, we're national independent wrestlers. It kind of feels like that's probably where a lot of these promotions saw them, because every time you see them, they're wrestling for a promotion that's on IWTV.
Well, and it's not just that they're on IWTV. They are a well-respected promotion on IWTV from that IWTV crowd, which is huge. So it's not just like they get a couple of views here and there. No, they're one of the top promotions on IWTV. So, I mean, I think like you just said, I mean, they've gotten guys opportunities, and opportunities outside of the U.S. I mean, the Wall went to Germany, strictly from Action Wrestling. Jaden Newman straight to Germany and everywhere else based off of his IWTV recommendations and Action affiliation. So it's definitely working.
Southern Honor Wrestling on my list for a lot of reasons, but it's guys like when guys want to work there. That's kind of one of my metrics of like, hey, do guys want to work there? And you can speak from this personally, obviously. Hey, I'm going to have good footage to get out to promoters. I'm going to get good promo stuff. Like everything's going to be filmed. It's going to be edited nicely. And that's what you need to kind of get out there. Is like, it's not just, no offense to the guys doing this. It's just not a knock. I get it. You got to have the footage. But if the only footage you have is your wife or your girlfriend filming your matches on your iPhone
from the crowd,
I mean, it's like, hey, we get it. Promoters are probably used to it, and it's probably fine. But when you can send them something that was Southern Honor filmed, edited, the light, everything's it looks, and you send that alone sets you apart. That you just look better.
Yeah, I mean, it adds a professionalism to your look. And you have a commentary team behind you. I mean, Gerard Bonner does a phenomenal job. I mean, his partner that he's got, unfortunately, I mean, he has to deal with that. But he, I feel like they do a great job at telling the story and allowing them to, look bigger than life, as you would see like on a WWE or an AEW program. So, I mean, I think Southern Honor is one of those production-wise that is going to elevate your game. And I mean, the poster, the match graphics that they make are the best out there. Viper, he does a phenomenal job for them. You can see him on Instagram. I mean, he does some great work. I've had him do some stuff for me. So, they put effort in their product, and so they make their guys look like stars. They make you feel like stars with the production, the lights, the glitz, the glam, the entrance video, the loud music, and then the crowd eats it up because they feel like they're at a WWE live event or, just not a regular indie because of the presentation. So, yes, Southern Honor definitely belongs.
Yeah, the guy who does the video stuff there, Dylan, I'm like, he's done stuff for, like, nationally. I mean,
yeah.
So it's a thing. Last but not least in the Power 5, Southern Fried Championship Wrestling. Well, wait, what? I'm like, dude, they run in a Boys and Girls Club over in Monroe, Georgia. They do. But one of the strengths that one of the things I feel like they do better than anybody is tell stories. And if you want to kind of learn in this business, like, hey, I want to be involved in a story. I want to like grow and develop as a character, as the persona, and I want to be able to tell those stories. And somebody who can teach you how to do it, not just with the promos, not just with but even in the match, how to tell that story. I always tell people that's why you want to work Southern Fried. I think now you could correct me again at any point if I'm wrong, but that's what I think they do better than probably anybody, and that's why you want to work there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Southern Fried is one of those that you what we would call in the wrestling a cold match. So there's nothing to really grasp on as to why these guys are fighting or anything like that. There's always, whether it's before the match or after the match, something that's going to intrigue your interest. Interest. I don't know why I'm messing that word up today, but what grabs your attention for that match or for those two guys. There's always going to be something to build off with them, and something to if a wrestler is taken, isn't able to make the next couple of shows, there's always something for them to feed back into and, grow off of. And I feel like, their ability to adapt to situations as well, as we saw at Shindig, no power, still ran a show, still told the stories they needed to, even though there weren't microphones and all the equipment that, they had planned to have to make everything bigger and larger than life. But they work with what they got and they are able to pivot and just make things work. And the roster behind it is able to tell these stories with the details they are given, which is something that's very important, because it's not just hey, we need you to go out here, cut a 3-minute promo, just, do what you can to put the match over. It's, hey, here's, A, B, and C of what needs to be explained. Make sure you get this part in, because this is what's going to lead to this, and make make you interesting and what you're doing interesting.
And you brought it up. I openly said that recency bias affects this list, and part of what keeps him on the list is when Shindig happened, and the situation of how everything unfolded with no power. They ran the show. I asked myself, how many other promotions just don't say, like, sorry folks, park's closed, Moose out front should have told you, I mean, literally, like, it should have just happened. And but they know, they just were like, they still on the fly figured it out and made it happen. I just was in my head going, I can't tell you, I could probably count on one hand all of the promotions that we follow that even dare to attempt to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why, again, partially Southern Fried finishes out the Power 5 list. Now, something we've never done before. A lot of people ask me, like, who's right there on the cusp? Like, who's coming in? And I'm like, hey, I'm going to invite Bryce. We're going to collaborate a little bit here. We're going to put this list together. And we're kind of going to, not only, it's something a little different of, like, what kept some of them out. Mm-hmm. Maybe, like, what are they on the outside looking in, the whys, or making the case for why they should be. Let's start with an easy one. Viral. You brought them up to begin with. Why are they not in the Power 5? Like, and you're probably going to look at me and go like, well, I had them in the Power 5. So I don't know. Why don't you tell me, Nick, why they're not in the Power 5? No, it's a pretty simple answer.
Yeah, I think it's what we talked about before we went on air. It's the fact of just their schedule. They don't run as frequent as a Southern Fried or an Action or a Southern Honor. Those are monthly shows, and Viral, they run what?
They run bi-monthly, yeah.
Yeah, every other month. So, they're doing 6 shows versus over 12. I'll just say that because some of these promotions are running crazy amounts. But yeah, Viral is just a sheer scheduling. If they ran more, there's no doubt they'd be in the top 5, in the Power 5.
Yeah, I agree. So next on my list, look, I had a feeling you were going to put it on the list before if I didn't. And I'm going to let you, I'm not saying plead the case for Coastal, but Coastal Empire, like, do make their case for why they should, and why do you think maybe they're not?
Yeah, I mean, I think that we should definitely be on the Power 5, just simply because, I mean, we were the 2024 promotion of the year, and I feel like we haven't lost any momentum after that. I feel like our shows have gotten better and better, and I mean, we do tell stories. Yeah, the stories are out there. They are not your typical pro wrestling storylines. You do have to watch the product in order to sometimes understand what's going on. I mean, right now, one of the main storylines is revolving around a VHS tape. And if that intrigues your interest, good Lord, that is like the third time I can't get that word right. If that piques some interest to you, go watch the product from the past year or 6 months or so. I mean, it's one of those things that you test out the waters and then the fans just get behind it. I think our crowds have been phenomenal. We're packing out the VFW. It's almost time for us to find another venue because we are starting to grow that much.
I'm going to hit the pause button for a reason. That's why. That's the only reason I consistently have Coastal 6-7 in my list. Is and again, it's not something I'm blindsiding you, I hope, because I've had this conversation before. I'm like, man, and messages back and forth. I'm like, I know you love the building, but it might be time. Like, it just might be time, and look, Coastal's not the only promotion that's my train of thought with them. Is just like, it's just something a little bigger, more tickets, and there's some other factors.
Right.
But that's my biggest reason to not have it in there. And that's really it. And it's not anybody's fault that you're doing so well that you're packing the building that you're in. Right. I mean, that's, it's a heck of a problem to have. Let's put it to you that way.
Yeah. And I mean, we had, not to sidebar, but we had some people reach out to us and say, oh, y'all claim to, pack the VFW out, yet there's empty chairs on the YouTube show. Go back and watch it. There's sticky notes on those chairs where people paid for those seats. It was just their decision not to show up to that show for whatever reason, but they paid for their seats. So we made the money off of it. So, but yeah, I mean, we're packing the place out. Yeah. I think we want to do it more consistently, as far as like kind of selling out before we do move on. And Savannah and wrestling in general crowds, typically around these months, summer months and back to school months, they typically kind of teeter-totter. Sometimes you'll get a full house. Sometimes you're getting your regular, every seat's full, but there's no one standing type deal. But I mean, I think we've grown the fan base in Savannah to the point where we're going to have a good crowd regardless of the month here. And I'm pretty confident of that. And I mean, just the sheer stories we got going on there with myself and Dax Anthony. And then you've got Simon Sermon and Chad Skywalker, and then Randall Reno. You've got Exotic Youth there. And, we've got a lot going on. And so, yeah, I mean, the Power Five. I mean, I agree with you. If we were drawing the 300s and the 750s and things like that, I mean, I think Coastal would be right there.
Yeah. I'm going to jump one. I want to go to the Lariato. The reason I'm doing that is every show seems to do massive numbers. It seems like they've always got somebody, no disrespect to the former champ, but like Matt Cardona showing up. JBL's on the card, Matt Hardy at the last show, QT obviously, taking the gold at the last show. I mean, they've always got, by the way, just on a regular thing, the Good Brothers are there. I mean, So it's not like the talent's not there. It's the schedule. It's kind of my same thing with Viral. Like, if they ran monthly, by the way, if they ran monthly and they only drew half the houses they're drawing now when they're running the schedule, they would still be okay. They're in the mix at that point. Like, they're in the conversation without a doubt.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Lariato is one of those. They put on a great product. They've got names that aren't on every Georgia card because they do pull from Florida and South Carolina, or the Carolinas in general. And like you said, I mean, if we ran more, and I say we because I am affiliated with Lariato, I do consider that my home promotion. If we did run more and more consecutively, which is a possibility that is going to start happening with the TV deal. So fingers crossed that more Lariato product and that it'll actually be, elsewhere, and then Dublin being the home promotion, and then kind of like how One Fall's doing where they run other shows. Hopefully that's the goal. So, hopefully we get to see Lariato on that Power Five here shortly.
Again, that being said, if they ran more often, and they even, like I said, half the numbers, they're probably there. I think this next promotion I put very equivalent, and what I mean by it is, let me back up, better word. Very similarly, I have the same thing that I say sometimes about Coastal. Kraken Pro Wrestling doing some super interesting stories. They plan everything out. They do a YouTube TV show. The format, they have it planned out. I keep in contact with those guys regularly. I try to stay in the loop of what they're doing. I love what they're trying to do just in the community alone. That's a different whole aspect that they do that a lot of promotions don't. Here's the conundrum. This would be Nick talking to Kraken if I could say this, and I want to see your reaction. They're not in the Power 5 because they are not in a building that's drawing 250, 300 on a regular basis. But Nick would also sit there and say, don't leave the building you're in. I've been in that building. I loved it. I think it's the right place for them. It shouldn't matter. I'm not asking it for it to matter. Don't worry about being in the Power 5. I'm super proud of everything that they're doing. And just if I would not risk moving to a bigger venue, for whatever reason, until you have the very Coastal issue of we cannot physically fit any more people in here.
Yeah, and I think that's where I was kind of thinking right there whenever you were talking about that, because I've watched some of the Kraken YouTube shows, and I could be wrong, but just based off of what I saw, I feel like there is movement to where they could fit more chairs and more people in if necessary. So where Coastal is that case of we've had the standing room only, there is absolutely no more chairs to put. There is no more room for us to fit people unless we open the doors to the bar area. But then only like 4 people could stand in the way and nobody else would see behind them. So but yeah, with Kraken, if they really put the will to put more chairs and things like that in there, I think they could kill it and really pack that place out. And then if they continue to do it consecutively there, that's whenever they would need to look for a building. But I'm with you. If they wanted, they could add more chairs, fit more people, and but I think right now, I mean, they've grown so much already that they're in that hot spot. So I feel like they could test it out and maybe reconfigure how they set up the arena for the fans and see if hey, let's try to get more people in.
Yeah, this from where they've gone in that 1 year, I also was like, don't really try to get out ahead of yourself. Like, just let it progress naturally and get to where you want to be. Because I think they're in a really, I can't speak highly enough of them. And that's what I tell people all the time. I'm like, I'm super proud of that team down there. I always tell people, they're good people if my wife likes them.
Yeah.
So I'm like, hey, and they're a lot of good kids. And I say kids for a reason, but anyway, I digress. Last but not least, Wrestle America. A lot of people, look, I've only because it's wacky where it's kind of located. It's it's over a 2.5 hour drive typically for me to get there. So I've only managed to hit it a couple times. By the way, I've seen this. I went to their Unchained show like 2 years consecutive year, so it was weird, back to back. I think they do a lot of things really, really well. Look, they have a history. They have, that they kind of come from. It's weird to me, the talents, the variety of talents. I don't know, when you've looked at their card, I know you've looked at it lately. I know you've kind of familiarized yourself with it lately. And I'm like, it's unique in a way but like right now, they're another one of those promotions where youth movement champs. But yet, all the youth movement champs on a card that has Happy Man, Sal, Sunny Days, Michael Stevens, whatever incarnation he's at, his family. But you know what I mean? Like, they've got a lot of vets in there, but yet it's the young guys at the top, and they always pack a good house. They're in one of those. They got a great venue, great relationship there. Here's my argument. I don't know. There's nothing on their list that says I keep them out because of this.
Yeah,
it's just me, the ones ahead of them.
I think it could technically be one of those situations where all of these promotions that we've mentioned in this second tier, they have a quality of the ones in the Power Five, but they're missing another. And I think the place where WrestleMerica lacks would just be the production, which they're working on. Getting their video out and making it known that the video is out and that the show is out, and like maybe adding some lights or fog machine here and there to just give that bigger feel to the show. That's the only thing that I could think of. I mean, the video that I have seen is great. I mean, they're posting social media clips. Like you said, they're drawing crowds. They've got great storytelling. They've got a mix of young talent and names from the independent scene. So it is one of those things where it's hard to knock them. But if it was something to knock, it would be just the production. They could maybe take a note from Southern Honor, which every promotion could take a note from Southern Honor. And get the production a little higher and better quality.
Again, I know the last time I was there, they made it a point to show me they are. That's kind of what they're doing. Like, hey, we're doing this, and production, we're doing this. So I'm like, hey, they're putting that in there, and so I always say, like, they do really good shows. I think they're that one massive show from putting themselves in there on a regular basis. Right. I can't explain that a lot of times, but I'm like, I think every promotion's got, like, what's your signature show of the year that's going to draw this massive, and I don't know, maybe I'm delusional at this point, but that's, we're both tired because it's a late night for us. It's not our normal recording schedule. Look, I'm going to stay on the other side of this where I'm going to plug our usual. Check us out at patreon.com/tappedoutpod. We always talk about it. Free, you get the spotlight, $1 and above. You're going to get those show notes, $5 and above. You get the weekly shows. You get those ahead of time. $10 a level. You're going to get anything we do. You get it early. But, of course, you get that digital collectible that we're making there on a monthly. It's exclusive only to our Patreons. And, of course, the $25 one, you get the actual physical copy. Those went out last week, so those are good. Those were taken care of for the month. And I want to say, hey, one, appreciate you sitting in, but two, appreciate you kind of participating in that in our first ever 2 package. So we actually sent out 2 of those. It was you and QT Marshall. Coincidentally, little did I know how that was going to go by the end of the month. But look, before we get out of here, look, I know it's late. I'm not going to hold you up forever. But you're 1 month on the Tapped Out Podcast Networks. It's in the books now. I don't want to say, like, what'd you think? I mean, but so what's the experience like of sitting in for a month and being on the other side of this whole thing?
Yeah, I mean, it was a cool experience. It was great to kind of talk about some topics or give some insight on topics that you guys may not know, as far as like being a part of or an in-ring talent. You guys get a lot of the behind the scenes stuff and can talk on that. But as somebody in the ring, I feel like it gave a unique perspective on some of the topics that we discussed. A lot of cool feedback from the guys and girls in the locker room who watch the show. And some disagree, some agree with what I said, which is super cool, which, you had talked about, this may become something that the fans would like to see, where guys and girls pop on for something like that. So not spoiling anything, which I think I just did, but it's one of those things that you tried it out, and I feel like it was a success. I mean, I had a lot of fun with it, and I enjoy talking wrestling, so I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Well, again, we appreciate you coming on, and yeah, you did you spoil it? Maybe. Look, we had I'll kind of put it. I always joke with people, if you've hung around over an hour with us, you kind of get something special at the end. And we've had this conversation about maybe going to a busted open format where it's maybe me, Heath, and a wrestler, or me and a booker. 3 of us, 2 of us, hodgepodging it around, just kind of creating just kind of shaking it up a little bit from time to time, especially from week to week. If I was talking to somebody and I said, hey, if you have a big, huge show coming up, maybe they sit in for that week. They can kind of, they got to get a little segment where they get to plug their big thing, but the rest of it, they got to sit through, and kind of do the show with us. I'm like, yeah, it could be unique and could be different. But look, I will throw this out there that the invitation's obviously going to be there if you ever want to come back on. You want to do this again, we'll figure out a way to make it happen. But I appreciate you sitting in. It was pretty short notice, so I appreciate you kind of going like, yeah, man, because you can imagine how much work I was going to have to put in if you said no. I was like, well, shit, now I got to find somebody. But, again, I appreciate you coming on, and hopefully it won't be the last. Well, guys, we're going to wrap up. It's the last Bryce Cannon for now. We appreciate you being down here, buddy, and I don't even know how to get out of this one other than maybe we'll see you at the matches or something like that.